give a brief update on what's happening with that report and the update on the tickets that are outstanding. Then I'll pass to Carolyn to talk about impact on submission and how you should consider this for the upcoming interim check. So there are some issues with the Indicator 7 report pulling the domain scores and the progress flags for students that were imported from Enrich and for students that have had their COAS documents created within EdPlan SC. As I've indicated on a few tickets, as a few of you have seen this maybe on the submissions, COAS data did transfer for students from the previous system. It'll show up as a row inside of your student history. It'll be called COSIF entry or COSIF exit, and the scores are saved underneath the details pencil of that entry. But the issue is with the report pulling that like it pulls the data from EdPlan students. So if you have a ticket open, we are working to resolve that. Our development team is now. We'll provide the updates on the ticket. Then I'll pass to Carolyn to discuss what that looks like for your submission if you are having difficulties pulling this data. Carolyn?
All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. We had an opportunity to talk this morning, and the data, we're certain that the data would be corrected by next Friday. So we are postponing the COAS submission until next Friday for those of you who want to participate. Remember, these reports for Indicator 7, 11, and 12 are optional, but it does give us some insight into your data as we approach the end of the school year. So the Indicator 7 COAS submission will be extended to next Friday, the 21st. And back over to Katie and Nick.
Okay, do we have any other questions about that? Or Nick, do you have any other comments for Indicator 7?
No, just keep watching the tickets. Those will be updated as we progress. You'll hear from me on those tickets.
Okay, perfect. All right, moving along. The next thing is I just want to bring everyone's attention to their logos and headers in EdPlan. So looking at your logo, does it look okay? Is it the correct logo? I had a report like last month of a logo that wasn't like fitting right. And so it's February. So look at those printed documents. And if your logo looks off, then we're going to have you go ahead and submit a Zendesk ticket for that. If you're having any issues, you can also let me know, but we want to make sure that your logos are in there, that they're accurate, that they look nice. Also, if your title of your school district, we noticed on one of the school districts, it was just an abbreviation for that district and not the full name of the district. And so we can also change that in the system. And so, Nick, do you want a Zendesk ticket for changing of the name?
Yeah, definitely. So Katie's referring to like in that header, you can control how that appears for your documents. So if you don't like how it's spelled now, or if it says the school district of, and you just want school district of, submit a Zendesk ticket, we can tweak it.
So an example would be South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind. If that's how they wanted it to say that instead of SCSDB, then we would need just to put in a ticket for that to get that adjusted. Okay.
Can I say something, Katie, about
yeah.
the logos too? So the way that the logos are set up is that it needs to be square. And so the reason that if you sent us a file that's a rectangular file, you'll notice perhaps that your logo then just gets squished or distorted into a square. And so if whatever logo you send us can be square in that it's, 300 pixels by 300 pixels. It needs to be sort of the same height and width. I think everyone knows what a square is. But originally Katie reached out to directly, I think, to like communications officers and that kind of stuff. So many of those folks sent in your logos originally. So we've just noticed as we've been helping various people that sometimes the logo is squished and that we are able to adjust and update those. So send us a square version if you're having that issue.
The next item on our agenda is regarding SAT and ACT accommodations. And so one of the things that I just wanted to mention here is you won't see under state assessments, you won't see SAT and ACT. The guidance from our office has been that that information, it's vetted by the vendor. I know packets get put together to request those accommodations, and so they're approved by the vendor for the test. And so we've said that you can put that information in the PWN. That would be an appropriate place to go ahead and document what accommodations you'll be requesting for the SAT and ACT. So I've gotten a couple emails recently about it, and I had gotten a lot of emails about it closer to launch. And so I just wanted to circle back and make sure that we're all on the same page about SAT and ACT accommodations. And then moving into our next topic, it's assessment. So I'm going to throw that over to Nick to have a discussion of some overlap with assessments and how that looks and when it's happening.
Thanks, Katie. So what we're going to review here is, I think, most often occurring with goal assessments, when the assessments are both named goal assessment, but the subject domain is different, and how that overlaps with the PWN. So as I go through this, Phil, if you want to stop me anywhere and additional insight or context, but we've seen a few tickets on this and we wanted to bring it to the full group. So if you're creating a PWN for a student, there's the section where evaluation procedures, tests, records, or reports that are used as a basis for the action above include. And then this pulls the assessment. Previously in the system, I'm going to want you to focus on these two, curriculum-based measure and rubric. These are pulling from the assessment section of the student. And you see here, there's a goal assessment and its subject domain is rubric. And here there's a goal assessment with a subject domain of curriculum-based measure. These show as separate assessments inside of the PWN. They're named differently. They show up on two different rows. And up until last week, if you checked one of them, it was checking both options. So if I had checked curriculum-based measure, it would also check and uncheck rubric. That is the defect that has been resolved. These assessments are no longer showing up twice. They're no longer showing with the same name. They now show as different assessments and can be selected individually. This is probably only occurring if you are using goal assessments heavily in your district. Phil, this is where I'd invite your feedback if there's any other assessment I'm not thinking of. But really, this was happening if people are using goal assessments in subject domains.
Yeah, I think if you have an assessment that it has the name of the assessment is repeated and you're using those different subject domains was where it was kind of showing up. So what we were hearing was that, why is this assessment showing up twice? And the answer was that, well, because it was added twice, but it looked confusing on the PWN.
Awesome.
Okay,
All right,
any
Katie.
questions about that?
The chat got a bubble.
All right.
All right, so we're having a problem with agencies selecting the IEP and the PWN not showing up in the PWN. All right, could you submit a Zendesk ticket for that if you haven't already? We'll check that out there to make sure your agencies are printing as expected. Thanks for letting us know.
All right, we're going to move over into new event. The topic is new event inactivation permissions. And so I'll go back over to Nick to have a discussion about power users now being able to inactivate exit and re-entry events.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I should have just kept the screen share. So I actually have to switch the user I'm logged into to show the difference. So I'm going to just talk about the change for a moment, and then I'll be able to show you the change as I switch over to a power user. This was also fairly rare. We got 2 to 5 tickets about this, but it is now a permission that all power users have. And it usually comes when dealing with inactivations of students from PowerSchool. We're running into a few issues where students' IEP dates were falling in between exit and entry events in the system because someone might have been miscoded in PowerSchool. And then there was an event type that power users were unable to exit or create and inactivate. So I'm going to open up an example student, William Lowe. And you see there's this set of events like grade change and school change. And I'm in as a power user. You do not have the ability to activate or inactivate these events. And this is what it used to look like for the school system entry and the exit school system event. So there's two events when a student leaves your LEA entirely or returns to your LEA entirely, called entry and exit of school system. You are now able to inactivate and reactivate those events like any other. This probably is not significant unless you run into a student who had an IEP written on a day that fell between their entry and exit due to a misentered event. So this is pretty small overlap as well, but you'll notice you have two new events you can now activate and inactivate. That is the school system entry and the exit school system event. Any questions about that? Okay, not seeing any. Back to you, Katie. Maybe it might be back to me. I don't remember what's next.
What's next is it's back to you or maybe Phil, but importance of saving the signatures before moving to another area. So when we're towards
I
that
can take this one.
finalization part.
Yeah, I think we have been looking into and problem solving around how to make sure the signatures save. And so one thing that we've shared in these end user webinars that we've been doing and realized we hadn't shared it with power users, and so this is maybe a tip that you want to share as well, is that part of the way the signatures work is, and I think what we realize is that the wording could be causing the confusion. So I'm here, I'm on an IEP, create IEP page, and I'm going to add signatures. So if I come in and add my signature, and I hit save and close, so that this little pop-up or modal, when I hit save and close, it saves it and closes the modal. But what it doesn't do is, if I navigate away from this page, so I'll navigate away, I get this pop-up that says you've changed information on this page but have not saved it. So that's a big clue that this page has not been saved. And so if I just ignore this and click OK, when I navigate back to my Create IEP page, my signature will have disappeared. So I added it under Jean Piaget and it's disappeared. And that's because when I add the signature, hit save and close, I need to make sure I click save. So I can just come up here to this button. Somehow I need to save the page. It doesn't matter what save button I use, but as long as I save the page. So now when I click save, it saved the page. Now when I navigate away to another page, it doesn't give me that error or that notification. And then when I navigate back to my Create IEP page, once it loads, my signature will be there. So now both my signatures are there. So I think that is maybe a good tip, that once you've added your signatures, make sure your users are clicking the save button on the page, somewhere on the page, so that those signatures will stay and be present. Because it could be that they're adding the signatures and then they see that it's here, and then I know we've gotten reports of, and then they disappear. It seems to be that perhaps they're not saving the page. So I think that's one. The other thing that I'll address is when multiple people are on this same page. So if Katie was logged in here to Mara's SCASA scenario and Nick was in here as well, the way the saving works can also kind of cause some issues. So it is possible that I could do it. And the way I would recommend doing it, if you're going to have multiple people signing virtually, is that I could come in here, add my signature, sign it, click save, and then say, okay, Katie, I'm leaving this page. Now Katie goes into that page, signs it, clicks save, and then leaves the page. And then Nick goes in and signs it and clicks save. So I think if you're doing virtual meetings where multiple people are in there, there just needs to be some communication about who's signing and who's clicking save, because if you all kind of do that at the same time, it's kind of like the last person that saves wins. So that can be the challenge when you're doing the virtual piece where everyone's signing. Nick, anything you'd add?
No, I see Lindy's comment in the chat. I know we have a number of tickets on this too, with folks signing virtually, working on better practices so the system will be able to capture all of those. I know people have difficulties, especially when it's multiple machines, or if someone is not on a computer that signs into EdPlan, but is on a video call that's connected to someone in EdPlan. I know that's a challenge as well. And then Anna, seeing your comments, the signatures on the page should save until you draft. So if Phil made a typo on the word school psychologist, and he just wants to go change that to say anything else, and then redrafts the document, the signatures will not go away because he changed the spelling of psychologist. But if Phil creates a version of this document, that finalization or drafting is what causes it to clear. So the edits themselves don't, but an edit followed by a recreation of a PDF would.
So I think that's a really good point, Nick, is once you've added the signatures, you shouldn't be creating a draft. It should be like kind of adding the signatures as sort of the last step before creating finalization. And so I think that's another thing for users is that don't create a draft so you can kind of go check the signatures, because then when you come back, they may not be there. So you'll want to make sure that once you've added your signatures, creating the finals kind of that next step. But yeah, just because I've come in and changed something in the workspace isn't necessarily going to remove those signatures.
And then I see Karen saying, being able to type your name and it'll print like a signature, not a component that the system is capable of right now, but that's something we can take down for future enhancement or improvement. Thank you. All right.
All right. And the next item on our agenda is future dated IEPs and that discussion of the inactivating goals.
Yes. So this really, if you don't do like IEPs all at one time, which I think is the majority of districts in the state, then none of this really applies to you. So, you know, focus on your email for a second. But if you are one of those districts that, you know, has all of your IEPs in May and they all start in August, then you'll want to pay attention, turn your speakers up, and listen closely. So the EdPlan can accommodate this. So the scenario I'm talking about is, let's say that your IEP meeting date is going to be, you know, May 14th, and then the begin date of your IEP is not going to be until, you know, August 18th when school starts. And then your, you know, your next due date would be May, well, I'm going to put it as August 17th. So I've got that a year out. So that's the dates of my IP, August 18th to August 17th. That's a full year. And then my next annual review is going to be due on 5/13/2025. And this is all fine and well. I could meet on August 14th. I could finalize this IEP. And in my student history, this IEP will not become active until 8/18. And so my previous IEP, the one that's currently active, would remain active until this begin date of the IEP. And so I think that's what most people are expecting. That's what's going to work. I think the concern or the problem that I just want to make sure folks are aware of that are doing IEPs this way is that if something happens, because when you're doing an annual review and you're coming and updating this IEP, you're actually going into the workspace and you're changing, you know, you're changing goals, you're changing, you're inactivating goals, you are changing the accommodations, like you're making wholesale changes in the workspace. Well, if between like 5/14 and 8/18, that child needs an amendment. Let's say they get in trouble, they have an MDR, and now the IEP team needs to meet and change something. The problem is that you cannot amend that IEP that's currently active because it's no longer in the workspace. So you would end up having to sort of change everything back to what it was, then do the amendment, and then go back and change everything back again. So I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of how that will function, that once you have this IEP meeting day and you change the workspace, there's not a way to revert the workspace back to what the IEP that is currently active was doing. So please let me know if there are questions related to that in the chat. Just wanted to make the folks that do those IEPs that are future dated like that, that make you aware that changing the workspace, there's not a way to revert the workspace. Joan, seeing your question, so what do we do in those situations? So if that situation happened, you still would have the ability to, like, the system would allow you to come click amend the IEP, but your workspace is now all changed, reflecting that future IEP. And so you would have to go in and make the IEP reflect the currently valid IEP. So the IEP that has that blue star next to it, which that may mean you have to pull up that PDF of that IEP and look and see what's in that IEP. Oh, I've just determined this student not eligible. So it just would be a cumbersome process to have to go back and change the workspace back.
Phil,
So
can
you'd
you
have
also
to fill
click
in that
on,
IEP.
if you click on, I know goals and services are two of the most applicable things for this. So if you click on the pencil, the details pencil, this is often advice we give in Zendesk as well. If someone accidentally inactivates the previous goals too early, those things are also saved here, as well as services, participations in state assessments. Like, most of the information that prints on the pages of the IEP is also captured here. I don't know if this is more efficient to go here and copy it out versus the document. But if you ever lose track of a goal that was in the workspace on the previous IEP and it's gone, it's always going to be here. It's always going to be in this event details.
Yeah. And if you needed to, like in that case, if you had changed all the goals, you could copy it as a power user and then come in and go to edit GNO and add that goal in, just by pasting it in, and then it would be added to the workspace. Then you could kind of complete that and get that back. So that's one way you could do it. Oh yeah, so Anna Gibson, thank you for asking that question. I think that's kind of what I'm driving towards, is that the key here is that the workspace has changed. So yes, if you come in here and delete that future dated IEP, that will reactivate that previous IEP. The problem is that your workspace is gone. You've modified your workspace. So I think that's kind of my big message, is that once you start modifying the workspace, there's not an easy way to get the workspace back. You've changed the workspace. And so, yes, you could go delete that event and, do that kind of stuff, but that's just deleting the event. It doesn't make the workspace go back to what it used to be.
Okay, and Nick and Phil, I'm gonna drop a question that I got through the Formstack link a few minutes ago. So that you guys have a minute to look at it while I discuss SSO. So SSO, we've been talking about it for a long time. We keep saying it's coming, but guess what? It's coming. And so we wanted to talk about a few things. So what's going to happen is it's going to be done in phases. And that first phase will be people that are actually already on, like their district is on ClassLink. And then with those districts that are on ClassLink, there'll be phases and there'll be cohorts that will be going a few at a time to get that done, that process done. So more information will be coming out, but it'll be coming out in waves. So if you hear like one district's like, oh, we're getting it, and you're like, I don't have it, we haven't heard about it yet, it's because it's you're not part of that cohort. You're not using ClassLink yet, so you'll hear about it soon. But that's how that's kind of working. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure we discuss with SSO is once it's been changed over to SSO, those users that come over through PowerSchool will log in through SSO. But those users that are manually entered, they will continue to log in the old-fashioned way, the way that we've been doing it now. Is there anything to add, Nick or Phil, about that?
I think the big main point is that if you or one of your colleagues, power users, have added a person to the system manually, they will continue to log in the way they're logging in now. They will not use SSO or ClassLink to log in.
Agreed. Nothing else from me.
Okay, I think that was the biggest thing. So it's coming. If you already are using ClassLink, it'll be coming sooner than later. But there is a plan. We're working everything out. So information will be forthcoming to those districts that will be part of that first cohort. Okay. And do you guys want to start with a question I threw in the chat, or Chrissy Shutter has asked a different question about indicator 14?
I'll respond in the chat to Chrissy. Phil, if you want to chat through transfers and then call me in really quickly, I'm just going to respond in the chat.
Okay,
15
and there is a
seconds.
question that goes back to inactivating the goals. Going back to future dated IEPs, do we wait to inactivate the goals until after the fourth quarter progress reports? We normally do not even close IEPs until the fourth quarter. Will this impact progress reporting? So I think we already have an answer for that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's actually a great question. So the positive thing here is that the progress report is going to pull from the event, not from what's in the workspace. So inactivating previous goals removes the goals from the workspace, but doesn't do anything to the event. And so you don't need to wait. You can go ahead and inactivate those goals because it's not going to affect your progress reporting, because your progress report is going to pull, it's going to look for these dates, and it's going to say, is this progress reporting period within these dates when this IEP was active? And then it's going to pull whatever goals were associated with the event when that event was saved. So it's going to pull these goals. It's not going to pull the goals that are in the workspace. So, I mean, you could wait until the fourth quarter, but there's, in case there's an amendment or something that you think may be coming, but so you wouldn't have to go back and fix that. But in general, the progress reports pull from the event, not from the workspace. So I think that's kind of the key, troubleshooting thing for power users to know, is that if someone's reporting, hey, my progress report is wrong, or these are the wrong goals, I'm always coming to the student history and seeing what is the currently valid IEP and what goals are associated with that IEP, because that's what pulls into the progress report. Anything you'd add there, Nick, about that?
No, I think that's right. I think we could go through kind of the situation you played out earlier, Phil, where you inactivate your goals too early and you have a gap, but you want to add them back, and showing how that goal will then just show up in the inactivate goals panel. But you don't have to get rid of it until you're ready to inactivate, which I think kind of gets to the question in the chat too. Let's see, do you have that panel now? Okay. So
I'm
yeah,
doing an annual.
Thank you. So what Phil is showing now is, you do not get the inactivate previous goals panel if you're doing an amendment, because you can keep the same goals in an amendment. You don't need to rewrite them.
Yeah, I think it could be on Mara.
Yeah,
because I had inactivated her before. Yeah,
and we can make it reappear, which will be a good moment to teach them how the panel works. So if you go to PLP goals, okay. So right now Phil is not getting the inactivate previous goals panel. So it would be like someone had already pressed the button, but for whatever reason, be it logging or some other process in that plan, you need the goal back in the workspace. It's been inactivated too early. Phil can go back to student info, student history, or the document. You could also pull up the PDF in this instance, but I'm going to have him use the event. And then if he clicks on the details pencil of that most recent IEP, and then it'll be a little challenging for him to do live because you'll need to put this goal back into the workspace. So I don't know if you have a second screen, Phil, to copy it over to, and then go back into the goals and add this in.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Can I come to Edit G&O and add it there?
Oh, yeah.
But
And then
I think the main thing here is that I have to make sure that I add the dates to this.
And the domain. Yeah,
and the domain. So what I mean by that is I update the database. Now the goal's there. I need to add the domain so I can tell that this is a transition age student.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to find transition, and then let's say that this is academic achievement. So I'll scroll down to transition academic achievement. I'll add 2 goals back, transition academic achievement. Then I got to give the dates. So we were going 9/3/2024 to 9/30/2024. 3 to 9/3. And then update the database. Actually, maybe I want to have those go into today.
and now
Then
it's
I
like
see-
the panel's back. Yeah, exactly. So all this panel is doing is checking that event where Phil was, the details pencil, and saying, is there a goal that's exactly the same showing up that's still in the workspace? So to extend the example to the end, Phil, if you go change given situations to given situation, you take away the S, the goal is going to appear because it's not the exact same. The system is checking last event is the exact same goal present. That's how it shows up.
Yep. Okay, so then should we talk about transfers?
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to kind of understand the question, but I think what I'll say here is, so I'm going to go to admin actions, student transfer. And so what I think the question is, if I click on review requests, kind of talking about how students show up here. So students with pending requests for transfer, that means that I have requested a record and they're pending. That means that other district has not gone in and clicked approve. And so they'll stay here until that district comes in and clicks approve. And then students with approved requests for transfers, they will show up there, but then they disappear pretty quickly. Like once they've been approved, they will come off this list. And so I think the crux of the question, maybe Katie, is that they're looking for, where can I go like find a history of all this, or like what all that is. And so there's not a place kind of on this page or within the system where that is easily found. So that might be an area where we need to look at creating an advanced report of like the transfers. So that information is stored in the system, but it's not like present on this page. And Nick, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, but I think it would be an advanced report that we would create to show which students have transferred, which haven't. There might be on advanced student search. I don't think there is a transfer compliance symbol. So there is this transfer compliance symbol, but it's kind of temporary because they only have that symbol until someone has gone in and taken action. So once you've done your comparable services, or you've held your IEP or that kind of stuff, that symbol will go away. But that is one way you could at least find students who have transferred into the system where they've been approved, is you could come and find anyone with this transfer symbol, and that would show you the students that have transferred in and that are needing some sort of an annual review or an amendment to take place. But I'll note this down, Katie, so that we can talk about maybe creating a report or doing something for in-state transfers.
Okay, and I'll respond to the person too, also in the inform stack, but that was just one of the things that came through today. Inform stack. A lot of what I've been receiving is more enhancements or questions. So continue to use that. It helps me track you know, things that are wanted as updates, and then also things that we need to add to the agenda. Okay, we are done with the agenda. I don't know why we're done so early today. I thought it was a really lengthy agenda, like a meaty agenda, and I guess it's turning out not to be. So we're going to open it up for questions. I do want to circle back at the end before we close out. We will repeat the information from indicator 7 for those people that were late to the party. And so, but I don't want to hit that yet until we talk about some other things. So if you have questions, you can drop those in the chat. I'm not seeing any right now. Or if there's anything that you'd like to be shown how to do. I know so Karen asked where we can find a link to the Ed5 mapping info. Parent info. Okay, so I got something today that I believe is going to the Power School people about this information. And actually I have it drafted in an email. And I'm going to drop it in the chat. And it is related to the student's contact. And I'm pulling this from a drafted email that I had to Nick and Phil. So everyone's hearing it here first. But this is information that I got that Carolyn received today that's going to be pushed out from Power School, I believe next week. And so it's about what to do if those parents are not coming over. And it's to do with their email addresses.
And I'll share, Katie, that the way I find that information, Karen, is I'm just on ed.sc.gov, and in the search, if you just come and type in EdPlan SC and hit enter, the third one is EdPlan to Ed5 Power School mapping. So I think that's like the fastest way to, if you click on that, it will download the spreadsheet that shows that. But I think Katie's little message in the chat there too probably is another way to kind of problem solve why parents aren't showing up.
Yeah, it's more specific to that. Phil, can you drop the link to that in the chat? I know we shared it out before, but that was like way back when.
Yeah.
Like that's like old news. The Ed5 page. So we'll drop it in again though, because I'd have to search some old emails to find, or I can go to the website too, but
And
I will say if you open the spreadsheet and you save it, they do make changes as necessary to that Ed5 mapping. So if you downloaded it at launch, there may be some other add-ons that, so you don't want to like, I would refresh it every once in a while. I wouldn't always use the old one that you have saved to your computer.
Yeah. And Michaela, yes, we would love to have a ticket. We haven't heard since we made the updates related to the autosave and all that kind of stuff. We haven't been hearing as much about data disappearing in a reevaluation. So would love a ticket about that. I'm curious, like what page? Was it the eval planning? Was it the summary results page? Was it the eligibility page? So as much detail as you can provide, like the page and what exactly disappeared, that would be super helpful for us to troubleshoot and go figure out why that happened. But we've addressed quite a few issues since launch related to that. So I think there was something if the user pasted in like 3 pages of text, that was kind of a scenario where some data was disappearing. So we addressed that and fixed that. The auto log off and auto save features we think we're contributing to that as well. So we've been trying to address that to make sure that that's not happening for folks. Belinda, we're having trouble with words being cut off from the prior written notice.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, it would be great if we could see a screenshot of that, or like the scenario on where that's happening. Is it kind of between a page break? There's not a way to adjust the font size. So yeah, whatever you put in there, that's what happens. So there's not a way to adjust the font size to directly answer your question. But if there's a formatting issue or something that we need to look at, but I have not heard of that being an issue on the PWN. It was an issue for a while on, I think, the evaluation summary report.
And I think, do we want her to put in a ticket and some specific ID numbers?
Yeah,
So we
and
can
then maybe a
investigate that
screenshot.
further.
That would be super helpful
Yeah.
if you could upload a screenshot to that ticket so we can see it.
See what it looks
Or
like.
if you give us the student ID, we can go in and look at the specific student. So Joan's question, has there been any more discussion about adding meeting notices at the beginning and PWN at the end of all IEP processes, making them part of the compliance process? There have been discussions, Joan. I don't know if we want to add any more info. There definitely have been discussions.
Yeah.
We're looking at that in the eval process and in the re-eval process. So I think
She said, and.
I mean, to directly answer your question too, I guess, is that the link is here for the notification of meeting. I wonder if you're saying, Joan, like making it part of the compliance process, what you mean by that, and then the prior notice is at the end. So it is always there. I think you can finalize the IEP without creating the prior written notice. So I wonder if that's what you're talking about, is having some maybe something more about the prior written notice being required or preventing something from happening unless they've done that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can look at that. Then there was a question from Cynthia Tucker over in Bamberg. So would we only see students on the indicator 7 report if they have both an entry and exit coast?
Yeah, let me pull up the indicator 7 page. So when I create this report, I've got some options here. And so I think it's important to kind of pay attention to the options, but by default, it's going to show only students that have both entry and exit. That's what the indicator 7 report is. It's kids that have both entry and exit. If you want to see students that don't have an exit, then you can click this box. So check this box to add any student that are 3 through 5 as of the child count date. So as of the date that I put in here, who had an entry coast but not an exit coast. So if you want to see that whole list of students, you would check that box.
And Phil, I'm just going to note, I put in the chat too, the same issue that's impacting the data pulling from Enrich and EdPlan at the same time will cause this to not look like it's acting. So if you're checking that box and you're saying, I'm not getting all my students still, that's the same problem that's being addressed. So what Phil is describing, once this fix is released, will function that way. But if you're checking that now and not seeing a difference, that's part of what's being addressed.
Yeah, and so I think we might as well address what Carolyn shared at the top of the meeting, Katie, for those that weren't on quite yet. But there is an error in that report, like Nick just mentioned, and so should be fixed before should be fixed sometime next week. And so the kind of extension of that timeline to get it in, I think it was this Friday, and Carolyn said that by the 21st they can get that in for those that want to participate in that mid-year submission. And I don't know if Carolyn's still on. She probably has better words than I do, but
I'm still here.
Oh,
Yes, so basically, I mean, just to echo what you said, just to give you guys an opportunity to get those corrections fixed instead of submitting before those issues are corrected. We'll just extend the submission to the 21st to give you guys an opportunity to get those corrections done before submission. So there's really no need to submit now, knowing that it's incorrect. So we'll just delay the submission until afterwards.
And Karen asks, is that a delay for indicators 11 and 12 also?
I don't know that there's the same issues with those reports, but
But that was going to be my question. Is there anything that would cause a delay, or from your standpoint, are you seeing anything that would cause a delay in the submission that would need to be corrected?
I don't know, Nick. I know we've gotten 1 or 2 tickets on indicator 11 about various things, but I think in general, the report is working.
Yeah, so we're tracking, Sonia, I see your message. We have 2 items on 11, 2 items on 12. They're more specific than what's on 7. We're working through those individual tickets. I don't know if there's more issues folks have not submitted tickets on. That could be true, but we currently are showing 2 on 11, 2 on 12. Okay, thanks, Chrissy.
Okay, and then I think scrolling back up through the questions, there was one from Holly Bailey from over in Berkeley. Our total school minutes for students going from pre-K to K is not updating even with the next school. And she said she has a ticket in.
Yeah, I think we'll have to find that ticket, Holly, and look at that.
Yeah, I've got that one up, Holly. Thanks for flagging it. I'll make sure you get this addressed today. I see what you're discussing.
Let's see. So Karen, you did add, so is that the parent email that has to be included? That is my understanding from reading that. Like I said, I just got that this afternoon. That is going out to Power School admin, I believe, next week in like their weekly communication. So they will have more information next week about how that's working, but that was the blurb that I was given.
Can I address Melissa Cumby's question? So her question was, is it required to enter the child count date for all state reports? Do we have the option to use a current date? So I think that's a good question. Yes, you have the option to put in whatever date you want here. I think it's just important to kind of understand how the logic works. So these reports are pulling from the historical information. So whatever date I put here, it's telling the report to go and look at that child's status or IEP or eligibility status as of the date I put here, and then it'll pull it. So yeah, you're welcome to put any date you want, but typically for the submissions that the official kind of submissions, you're using whatever date Carolyn's team tells you to use.
And there's a question from Michelle Stanford that I don't think we addressed yet. Can there be a compliance check for being able to finalize an initial IEP if the initial consent for services has not been confirmed?
Yes. So there are going to be some updates to this page. And you'll get more information as they become available, but part of what's coming is an update to this page where you will create the consent for initial provision of services. from this page and then confirm it. And so, yeah, we'll look at that, Michelle, in terms of being able to finalize the initial IEP if the event hasn't been confirmed. I've heard that feedback that folks are forgetting to come in and do that. But I think in April timeframe, I think this is changing, and so I think the positive thing about that is that you'll be able to generate the consent for initial provision of services from this page. You won't do it from the prior written notice. I think that will simplify things and make things a lot clearer for folks.
Okay, and then we have the last one there that just came through. I had one student who went through Child Find that showed up on our indicator 12.
Let me check if Sheila, if your instance is one of the ones we know about. I know we're tracking Sonia's. Let me check now.
But I'm not seeing it. If we haven't addressed your question, because I'm scrolling through and I think we've hit everything, you might want to redrop it or flag it somehow. To make sure. Oh, she was responding to someone in the chat. It wasn't a question. Sorry. All right, any other questions? I did send out the webinar recording for the EdPlan Connect with an answer to that question that occurred during the webinar. And I also included the link for last month's recording. Also, we did have a end user webinar today. I just to update you all that the end user webinars are going really well. The feedback has been very positive. We're getting a lot of good questions coming out of them, and we're getting a lot of questions about how to use Progress Track. So we're letting them know that power users are going to be getting trained in Progress Track in the next couple of weeks. But I think Phil and I kind of talked a little bit. I don't see a reason why they couldn't share that info, like the power once we have the recorded session, with them. I don't think that would be an issue. And I think some people are already using Progress Track. There are articles and information materials in the resources widget or in Zendesk, sorry. And so I think some of our tech savvy people have gone in and figured it out for themselves and are actually using Progress Track. And we have one more question. How far in advance can we hold an IEP meeting? Because it will not allow me to finalize a test student IEP with a future start date. I don't know. Is there a clock compliance indicator on there?
That's a good question. So the thing that it won't allow you to do is future date this, right? IEP meeting date. It won't allow you to say, okay, like I couldn't say that the IEP meeting date was May 14th because it's February. But I believe, so if the meeting was yesterday and we're not going to start until August, I'll have to test this out. I won't be able to finalize this because I haven't done all the things I'm supposed to do, but I believe that it will let you finalize into the future.
We've never come across that it hasn't. Like that hasn't. If it's in there, it's just something that maybe there's a timer.
Yeah. Present levels of performance.
And another question came through about what is the recommended browser to use with EdPlan?
It should work with any browser. I mean, I think a lot of people like Chrome. I use Edge. I don't have any issues with it, so there's not necessarily a recommendation. But I think the main problem, honestly, it's not the browser. It's whatever different kind of add-ons or extensions that maybe your district has, that it sometimes interacts with those extensions in a negative way. And so sometimes different districts have different policies that your technology folks have put in place that can inhibit that. So if your district uses Chrome and has all kinds of add-ons and things that automatically pop up in Chrome, I would suggest trying like Firefox or something else that doesn't have all that stuff, and you might see a difference. I I don't think the browser matters as much as different extensions and add-ons that the browser is running, if that makes sense. The other thing I'll say, Katie, I think maybe we should let the folks on the call know is that we do have a release coming at the end of this month. And so I know we won't have an office hours between now and then, but we will have release notes that will be shared and all the information about, there were several updates that are part of this February release. And so that'll happen at the end of the month. And we'll share release notes with some screenshots and updates about what was changed in the system. And we'll make updates to the Zendesk articles and videos and that kind of stuff. So I can't remember off the top of my head, but there are quite a few things coming in February.
Well, one of them is like the participation. I don't know if we want to touch on that because that is a big one. But there, like, if you are printing articles in Zendesk, you're going to want to make sure that you go back and you refresh them after these releases. So if you are hanging on to printed articles from October, after that December release, I'm going to guess that a lot of those articles will be inaccurate or different screenshots or different wording. So it won't be, you might still be able to get where you're going, but it won't look the same. So you want to make sure if you are printing them that you are going back. I know I like my paper. I like to print things and have it and write my notes on it. But the intent is that we're able to update it continuously as needed.
Yeah.
And I'll push those release notes. They'll be posted on the resource information widget. I think there's a whole release notes tab now. Towards the end, I feel like it's one of the last ones. And it is the last one. And they're there for December. And so we'll post those when those are ready for February. So that you can share that out with your staff so that they know what to expect when they when they log into the system, what changes they'll see. And again, all of the changes that we've been making are a result of the feedback that we have been receiving from end users and power users across the districts. So I'm not seeing any more information in the chat or any more questions in the chat. We are ending early today, but we're here. So if you have more questions, don't have, like, now's your time. But I don't want to keep anyone as we're waiting for people to have questions. So I appreciate everyone's time. As soon as I have the link for the recording, I will send that out to everyone. Make sure if you haven't already done so and you're wanting to attend either those AR webinars or those webinars for Progress Track, that you do that, you sign up for those. And then also join the end user webinars. There's great information that Ann is sharing out in those end users webinars. It's a nice refresher.
Yeah, and Michaela, I think thanks for your message there. We'll look at that and see if there's some kind of a configuration or something going on that's not allowing the begin date to be so many days in the future. So we'll look at that. That could be the case. And then Chauncey, I think, yeah, the order is being updated in the February release, so it will match the order that is in EdPlan
With the tiles.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. I wish I was releasing you on like a warm, sunny day and giving you 30 minutes of sunshine, but I think I'm giving you 30 minutes of gloom. Extra minutes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.